Hello, this is Brenda with Cultivating Pleasant Places. Today I wanted to talk about homeschool and housework because it can be a challenge for homeschoolers to figure out how to find that balance between keeping the house clean and getting the schoolwork done. So we have definitely had seasons as a family where we pretty much survived on chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. So if you're in one of those seasons, it's okay. I definitely want to give you permission to prioritize the schoolwork. When my kids graduate, I want them to look back and say I got a quality education, not that the house was perfectly clean. But I know a challenge for moms is that sometimes the housework feels a little more satisfying. At the end of the day, you can look around and say, I got the bathroom clean, I put all the laundry away, and you can see a finished product. When you're doing the schoolwork, it doesn't necessarily show up at the end of the day. You can have an amazing day filled with math that was accomplished, getting reading done, talking about history, but it doesn't have that satisfying feel where you look around and say, oh, the kitchen is clean. That feels so good. So feel free to prioritize the schoolwork. Also, we know the house has to get clean at some point. We have to get the kids fed. We have to get the laundry done. So how do you do that? And that's where I wanted to just give you some tips that we have found worked for our family. Feel free to ignore them if it doesn't work for you, or share some of the tips that have worked in your family. My first tip is to follow the rule of 3. I'm not sure if someone taught this to me or if I figured it out on my own, but I realized it doesn't take that much work to make 3 meals when you're already making 1. So I try to prepare 1 for our family that day, put 1 in the freezer, and then share the 3rd meal. Either taking muffins or sourdough to the neighbors, or putting an extra lasagna in the freezer in case a friend gets sick or has a baby. I think this helps my kids and myself be oriented to having a heart of generosity. So I have started making freezer meals. You can put them in a bag or freeze them in a tin, but I will make 3 to 10 meals at once, and so then for the next however many days, I have meals set aside. Also, I'm not making as many dishes to do. Use 1 bowl to make 10 batches of muffins, and you save a whole bunch of time on doing dishes. I also make jars of dried soups, so these are really cost effective. They make cute gifts, but also my kids can just grab them and add the tomatoes and broth and make up soup, or I can put it in the slow cooker all day, so I save a lot of time in the prep and also in the cooking. I also make my own dry mixes. So of course you could buy dry mixes at the store, but I'm trying to do more from scratch. So I put the dry ingredients in a tub, and then I put the recipe on the side with the temperature to cook it and the time. So I don't have to go looking in a recipe book, and my kids don't have to remember which recipe book it's in. It's just on the mix. And again, I'm putting together one container, but I tripled the process. I tripled the dry ingredients, or multiplied it by 5, or however many you can fit in your container, and so I was only getting 1 bowl dirty for all of that. It also helps my kids with math. So my next tip is that I try to include my kids as much as possible. So I wanted to be that mom who baked with her kids, and I've always encouraged the kids to come join me. It's a little more work, they make messes. You're teaching them how to do a skill, but we have a bin full of aprons. Some of them are vintage from my great-grandmother. Some of them are more masculine looking for the boys, but anytime the kids see me start to get out the mixing bowls, they run over and say, can we help? And the rule is, yes, wash your hands, grab an apron, you can help mom. And then, since I'm following the rule of 3, we're at least tripling every recipe. So we'll read the recipe and say, it calls for half a cup. What is that times 3? What is 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2? And the kids very quickly get down not only their math facts, figure out fractions, but they're seeing what a fraction is. This is 1/2 of a whole, and it makes it much more relatable. I feel like the concept gets cemented when you're actually working with physical objects. There is a lot of overlap between homeschool and housework. When you start homeschooling, sometimes you think, well, we're going to do housework over here, get the chores done, and then we're going to switch and do school. But the longer you homeschool, the more you'll see that there really is a lot of overlap. While I'm baking, I'm teaching my kids math and reading skills. While we're at the store, they're learning math and life skills, and it starts to overlap a lot more. I hope that's helpful. Please share your tips, and we will talk later.